Playing with Power is brought to you by our sponsors and contributions to our Patreon from viewers like you. Thank you. Welcome to Playing with Power's Time Capsule series, where we take decks as they existed during specific periods of Magic's history and see how things have changed, what stayed the same, and how they fare against their modern counterparts. There are few decks in the modern format as iconic as Tron, an inevitability-focused deck that became viable in 2011 with the printing of Karn Liberated in New Phyrexia. Since then, the deck has rarely undergone major changes, slowly updating to respond to the meta, but keeping a majority of its core components the same. Even with its resistance to change, no Tron land is an island. Hey, this is Zeb from Playing with Power.
What's up? My name is Ryan, aka Tron is Bad on all social medias.
And today, we'll be talking a little bit about our favorite modern deck, looking at its current build, and comparing it to a time capsule of the deck from about 2018 by having the two face off. Alright, so, Ryan.
Hello.
Tron.
That's me.
Why is Tron your favorite deck?
First things first, let's get it straight. Tron is bad. That's obviously me, but no, Tron has been my favorite deck for many years. I would say that it's absolutely my pet deck. I will play this deck into the sun. I will play it until you cannot play Tron anymore. I just really like the feeling of being able to play really big things before my opponent can. And the deck has so many micro decisions that you actually do have to play. It's simply not just 1-2-7. It's 1-2-7, and now what do I do with that? It's like it's a giant puzzle. I love puzzles. There's no better feeling than being able to go turn 3 Karn. But for me, this deck is timeless. This deck currently is one of the best decks in the current modern meta, and that makes me really happy to be able to just like sleeve up Tron all of the time.
If we're a complete newbie, how do we play Tron, right? What is Tron?
So Tron, what you're attempting to do is you're attempting to get to 7 mana as fast as humanly possible by the power of 3 different lands. The Urza lands, Urza's Tower, Urza's Mine, and Urza's Power Plant. Generally speaking, it's called mono green Tron because you use green for Ancient Stirrings and Sylvan Scrying. Some builds are playing Gigantha the Wellspring as the companion, which is a whole other story. But what you want to do is you want to get to that 7 mana to be able to play big spells like Karn Liberated, or now you can play like Walking Ballista, or when you have 10 mana, you're allowed to play Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger and just on cast exile 2 of your opponent's permanents. We are trying to spit out 7 to 10 to 12 mana as fast as we can to make sure that we are playing things that our opponent cannot keep up with, or that will determine the way that the game goes.
So when did you start playing Tron?
I first started playing Tron, I believe it was 2013, 2014, right around then. I went to this store called Highlander Games in Boonton, New Jersey. It's a store that I actually used to work at. I sat down, and this was one of my first experiences playing Modern. I was playing nothing but Boggles. I got my butt handed to me when I sat down across from this person, and they played Tower, Mine, Plant, and they just went wild. They played Wormcoil Engine, and I was just like, what is going on? And they Mindslaver comboed me because they're also
because they had the land, they had
Academy Ruins. Yeah. And I had no idea what was going on, but I was so fascinated by this deck, and I'm like, I asked them, I was like, what deck is this? What are you playing? And they're like, I'm playing Tron. And then I was hooked from there. I've been playing Tron for almost 10 years now. I will always come back to Tron. This deck is like my bread and butter. This is my pet deck. This is my favorite way to play Magic.
Sure. So I actually have a very similar timeline to you. I started really playing Magic. I was playing like standard 2011. So it was like right when Scars of Mirrodin came out into New Phyrexia.
That's when I started playing.
Yeah. And then I had loved Old Mirrodin. That was actually when I stopped playing for the first time. And I was a kid, so I didn't have a big collection. I didn't even sell out. I just stopped playing. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I actually really like this game. I'm gonna play. And when Karn Liberated came out, I was like, I remember Karn. He's one of my favorite characters from the old story. And I cracked a foil Karn Liberated and was just like, this is the coolest thing on the planet.
That's so wild that you say that, is because the first pack of Magic that I had ever opened, it was one pack and it was a Sword of War and Peace and a foil Karn Liberated. And that was wild.
That is a pack.
That was back in the day when foils were like very rare.
Yeah, the foil multiplayer was insane. I ran home like with the I've got a golden ticket theme song, and I only played standard at the time. And then my brother, who was playing like extended and then modern when it came out, he had red green Tron, you know, and I was like, I kind of want to play modern too. How do I get to that deck? And he's just like, you can't get to this deck right now. You don't have the stuff for it. Let's get you with like Soul Sisters or something.
There you go.
And so I played modern for like half a year, getting to Tron, right?
Yeah.
And when I finally did, at the time played Grove of the Burn Willows, and I didn't have the money for that, so I played Karplusan Forests.
Oh yeah.
Right? But because the deck was just so consistent, it almost didn't matter. Like, it was so fringe, the fact that I was hurting myself instead of getting my opponent life. You know, Burn was going to be difficult for me. And I couldn't afford the ley lines at the time. So Burn was just like my silver bullet, because I couldn't ley line myself and protect myself.
It's still the silver bullet. It's so unfortunate.
What has been your favorite version of Tron so far?
I think that my favorite version of Tron is the version of Tron that I had put together right before the one that I'm showing you tonight. The one that I'm showing you tonight has been growing on me a lot lately, with getting more reps in, and it's been very, very powerful given the current meta. But the mono green Tron with Gigantha the Wellspring as the companion, I think that has been my favorite build of the deck so far to this date. Because of the fact that Karn the Great Creator is one of my favorite Magic cards of all time.
Yeah,
that card is incredible. It's extremely powerful. It's very versatile. It's a toolbox deck. Yeah. That, and you get a free 5/5 whenever you want with Gigantha. Sometimes Tron just needs something swinging for the fences.
When you're playing your current version of Tron, what are you trying to counter? What cards? What's the meta that your version of Tron is going up against?
So at the current moment, there is a lot of red-black scam going around. There's a lot of rhinos going around. There's a lot of creature-based decks. And this deck, in my opinion, and based off performance, is more well-equipped to deal with creature-based decks. Because there's no Gigantha the Wellspring in this deck anymore. There's no constriction of double pips in the main board. So this list plays 3 main board dismembers. This list has a main board walking ballista. This list, my list only has 2 worm coils, but it should have 3 worm coils in the main board. With a 4th worm coil in the sideboard. This list also plays 4 main board 1 rings. So it's like, it's really going to town with decks that are just like punching you in the face.
After talking each other's ears off about our favorite deck, it's time to get to the games. We play 3 back-to-back games, no best of. So let's take a quick look at what myself and Mr. Mono Green have brought to the table. This build of Tron is built to deal with a creature-heavy meta, mainboarding spells like Dismember and Walking Ballista to deal with early game threats. Karn Liberated is trimmed out to make room for Karn the Great Creator, and Ujin the Spirit Dragon and some of our chromatic baubles are dropped altogether in favor of Cityscape Leveler and the One Ring. The addition of Urza's Saga and Boseiju Who Endures provides excellent utility with the few extra land slots the deck allows. The sideboard for this deck maximizes the power of Karn the Great Creator, becoming a toolbox that allows the pilot to play reactively and quickly respond to a changing board state. A relic from 2018, this build of mono green Tron was designed to counter a number of problem decks that existed in the meta at the time. 4-color humans was the deck to beat, and this variant of Tron needed ways to wipe the board often and early, and to put up a strong mid-game defense in the case of Tron lands being removed. To this end, the deck runs Thought-Knot Seers and Blast Zone. The sideboard was heavily skewed towards dealing with Burn, which has always been a tough matchup for Tron. A playset of Leyline of Sanctity and 4 Thrag Tusks kept the deck from getting an early match loss to a rogue Burn deck. Add in a basic removal package and a couple of the best circumstantial top-end creatures at the time, and we're good to go. In Game 1, Ryan's opening hand contains an Urza's Saga, Expedition Map, Urza's Power Plant, and an Urza's Mine. His London mulligans are Urza's Saga, Chromatic Sphere, and a Relic of Progenitus. Zeb's opening hand contains an Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, an Urza's Mine, Chromatic Sphere, Urza's Tower, Blast Zone, and a Forest. His London mulligan is an Urza's Tower. Ryan has the prettiest eyes, so he gets to start us off. Ryan opens with an Urza's Power Plant, taps it to play an Expedition Map, and passes. Zeb draws for turn, then plays an Urza's Mine, tapping it to cast a Chromatic Sphere. Then he passes. Ryan draws, plays an Urza's Mine of his own, and passes. Zeb draws, cracks his Chromatic Sphere for 1 green mana, draws from the Sphere trigger, plays an Urza's Tower, then uses the floating green and the tower to cast Sylvan Scrying. He finds an Urza's Power Plant, puts it into his hand, and then passes. At the end of the turn, Ryan cracks his Expo map, finds his own Urza's Tower, and puts it into his hand. Ryan draws for the turn, plays the Urza's Tower, taps out for Oblivion Stone, and passes. Zeb draws and plays his Urza's Power Plant. The two players geek out over the Mark Teton panorama for a moment, then Zeb casts Karn Liberated. He ticks up Karn, targeting Ryan, who exiles an Ancient Stirrings from his hand. Zeb then passes. Ryan draws, then cracks his Oblivion Stone to deal with the Karn. He plays Urza's Saga, then ships the turn. Zeb draws and plays an Urza's Power Plant. He then casts a map, cracks it, and finds an Urza's Tower. With nothing left, he passes the turn. Ryan draws. At the beginning of his first main phase, his Urza's Saga gets a lore counter. He casts Expedition Map, plays a Forest, then, Hellbent, he passes the turn. Zeb draws for the turn, plays an Urza's Tower, then casts Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. Ulamog's on-cast trigger exiles Ryan's Tower and Power Plant. Zeb passes, and at the end of the turn, Ryan cracks his Expedition Map, finds a tower, then creates a construct through his Urza's Saga. Ryan draws, and at the beginning of his first main phase, Urza's Saga gets its last lore counter. With the Saga trigger on the stack, Ryan floats colorless mana. Saga's ability resolves, and Ryan searches his deck for an Expedition Map. He follows up with an Urza's Tower and Chromatic Sphere. Then he passes. Zeb draws for the turn, plays an Urza's Mine, then attacks with Ulamog. With Ulamog's attack trigger on the stack, Ryan cracks his Chromatic Sphere for a green mana. He draws a card, then cracks his Expedition Map to find a Power Plant. Done with what he can, he then exiles the top 20 cards to the Ulamog trigger. He blocks the massive Eldrazi with his construct, and in the second main step, Zeb plays Karn Liberated and a Wormcoil Engine. Karn eats Ryan's tower, and Zeb passes. Ryan draws, plays a Power Plant, then casts a Chromatic Sphere and immediately cracks it in a desperate search for an answer. Then, finding none, he concedes Game 1. After Game 1, Ryan sideboards in 2 Haywire Mites, a Phyrexian Metamorph, and a Boseiju Who Endures. He sides out a Forest and 3 Dismembers. Zeb brings in a World Breaker and Beast Within, siding out his 2 Ujin the Spirit Dragons. For Game 2, Ryan takes the play. He keeps a hand with Phyrexian Metamorph, Chromatic Star, Urza's Mine, and an Ancient Stirrings. His London mulligans are an Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, an Oblivion Stone, and a Karn Liberated. Zeb keeps his opening 7, which contains an Urza's Mine, 2 Forests, an Expedition Map, a Chromatic Star, a World Breaker, and a Beast Within. Ryan starts the game off with an Urza's Mine. He casts a Chromatic Star, then passes. Zeb draws for turn, then mirrors Ryan's turn by playing his own Urza's Mine and Chromatic Star. He passes back to Ryan. Ryan draws, then cracks his Chromatic Star for green. He draws, then casts Ancient Stirrings to do some digging. He finds an expedition map, plays an Urza's Tower, plays the map, then ships the turn. Zeb draws, cracks his star, plays a star, plays a mine, cracks star number 2, and then plays an expedition map and passes. Ryan draws, cracks his map, finds a power plant, plays the power plant, plays a chromatic sphere, then passes. Zeb draws a card, frowns, plays a snow-covered forest, and passes back to Ryan. In Ryan's upkeep, Zeb casts Beast Within, targeting Ryan's Urza's Tower. In response, Ryan floats 3 colorless mana. Beast Within resolves, and Ryan creates a 3/3 beast, and the tower is destroyed. Ryan moves to his draw step, letting the 3 mana fizzle, then plays the Urza's Tower he ripped off the top. He cracks his sphere, he plays an expedition map, he moves to combat with his beast. And Zeb takes 3. All done, Ryan passes the turn. Zeb draws for turn. He plays a forest and follows up with a Thought-Knot Seer. Ryan reveals a mine and a Phyrexian Metamorph. Zeb snatches the Metamorph out of Ryan's hand, then passes the turn. Ryan draws, plays the revealed mine, then passes. Zeb draws, casts another Thought-Knot Seer. Ryan reveals the only card in his hand, which is another mine, which Zeb actually can't take with the Seer. Zeb attacks for 4 with a Thought-Knot. Ryan takes it and goes to 16, and Zeb passes the turn. Ryan draws for turn and plays mine number 3. He plays another expedition map, and sadly passes the turn. Zeb draws. He plays Ancient Stirrings, finds an Urza's Tower, and plays it. He plays a Chromatic Star and a Sphere, then moves to attack with both Thought-Knots. Ryan blocks 1 with his Construct and takes 4 from the other, going down to 12. Zeb passes. At the end of the turn, Ryan cracks a map, finds a power plant, then cracks the other map and finds a forest. Going to his turn, Ryan draws. He plays the forest and passes. At the end of the turn, Zeb cracks his own map, using it to find an Urza's power plant. Zeb draws, then plays the power plant. He taps a load of mana and casts Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. Ulamog exiles Ryan's tower and power plant. Zeb then attacks with both Thought-Knots for 8. Ryan takes it and goes to 4. Zeb, in a pretty demanding position, passes the turn. Ryan draws and plays a Relic of Progenitus. He cracks it, exiles both graveyards, and draws a card. He plays an Urza's Mine and passes. Zeb draws, then swings out with both Thought-Knots and wins Game 2. Neither player sideboards after Game 2, bringing us straight to Game 3. Ryan takes the play once more, keeping a full grip that contains a Haywire Mite, the One Ring, an Oblivion Stone, Talisman of Resistance, an Urza's Power Plant, an Urza's Tower, and a Forest. Zeb also keeps his first 7, which contains 2 Karn Liberated, a Relic of Progenitus, an Expedition Map, an Urza's Power Plant, a Forest, and a Snow-Covered Forest. Ryan starts off Game 3 with an Urza's Power Plant. He taps the plant for a Haywire Mite, then passes. Zeb draws for turn. He also plays a Power Plant, then casts an Expedition Map and passes to Ryan. Ryan draws for turn. He plays an Urza's Mine. He swings with the Mite. Zeb takes 1 and goes to 19. In his second main, Ryan casts Talisman of Resistance and passes to Zeb. Zeb draws for turn, plays an Urza's Mine, and passes. Ryan draws. He completes Tron with an Urza's Tower. He moves to attack with his Mighty Might and puts Zeb to 18. Ryan follows up with the One Ring, taps it to put a burden counter on it and draws a card off of it, plays an Oblivion Stone, then passes. End of turn, Zeb cracks his Expedition Map and finds an Urza's Tower of his own. Zeb draws for the turn. He plays Urza's Tower. He casts Karn Liberated. He attempts to take back control of the board by exiling the One Ring with Karn, then passes back to Ryan. Ryan draws. He plays a Forest, then moves to combat. He attacks Karn with the Might, and Karn goes to 2. In his second main phase, Ryan drops a Walking Ballista, set at 3, and uses its ability twice to finish off Karn. He passes. Zeb draws for the turn. He plays a Power Plant, plays another Karn Liberated, and exiles the Ballista with Karn's -3 ability. Ryan responds by activating the Ballista to ping Zeb for 1. Zeb goes to 17 life, the Ballista dies as a state-based action, and Karn's ability fizzles. Zeb plays an expedition map and a relic of Progenitus, and ships the turn. Ryan draws. He plays a power plant as his land for turn, then moves straight to combat and attacks Zeb for 1, putting him to 16. In his second main, Ryan cracks the Oblivion Stone, blowing up the board. Ryan plays another 1 ring and passes. Zeb draws, plays a forest, and casts a third Karn Liberated. Karn downticks, targeting the 1 ring. Ryan uses ring to draw a card in response. The ring gets exiled, and Zeb plays a Relic of Progenitus and immediately cracks it. Graves are exiled, and Zeb draws a card, then passes the turn. Ryan draws for turn. He plays Karn the Great Creator. He downticks Karn and finds Cityscape Leveler from his sideboard, putting it into his hand. He casts Sylvan Scrying and finds an Urza's Tower. He plays the tower, plays the Leveler, which enters the battlefield and eats Karn Liberated. Zeb gets a tapped Power Stone as part of the Leveler's resolution, and Ryan passes. Zeb draws, plays a tower, and passes it right back. Ryan draws for turn, plays a tower of his own, downticks his Karn, and gets one of the 1 rings that were exiled by Karn Liberated. It goes into his hand, then he immediately plays it. Ryan goes to combat and swings big with his 8 power Leveler. It triggers on attack and targets Zeb's Power Stone. In his second main phase, Ryan taps the 1 ring to put a burden counter on it and draw a card. He plays Sylvan Scrying, finds an Urza's Mine, and gives Zeb 1 last chance to stabilize. Zeb draws, plays a power plant, and casts Wormcoil Engine, hoping it might buy him a bit of time. He gives the turn over to Ryan. At the beginning of his upkeep, Ryan takes 1 from his the 1 ring and goes to 21. He draws for the turn. He plays a mine, draws 2 off of the ring, plays another Leveler, kills Zeb's Wormcoil Engine with it, then attacks with the first Leveler. The attack trigger removes the Death Touch Worm token, and Zeb blocks the Leveler with the Lifelink token. After blockers are declared, Ryan channels Beseiju Who Endures, targeting the Lifelink Worm. The worm is destroyed, and Zeb digs out a forest from his library, takes 8 from the Trampling Leveler, goes to 0, and Ryan wins the game. So, what did you think of those games?
Man, oh man. Mulliganing to 4 in the mirror match sucks so bad. It really does. It hurts so bad.
But I did notice that both of the times that I did win, for the most part, I was just using cards that already exist in your build of the deck.
That's true.
Nothing that I did, you couldn't have done. So,
that's true.
While I did do 2 games to 1 there, if this was a true mirror match and I had the exact same deck, you might not even be able to tell that I did.
That's true. That's very, very true.
And also, your version of the deck is playing in a creature-heavy meta.
That's true.
Cares more about that enough to actually be playing main deck Dismembers.
Dismembers, yep. Also, within the current meta, even if I played a true mirror match today against another Tron deck, I wouldn't see more than 1 or 2 Karn Liberateds. Like that, you played 3 against me in 1 game. That was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because if I personally were to re-enter Modern and actually start grinding again, and I'd be obviously taking Tron, I would update it. I don't know if I would go down to less than 3 Karn Liberateds.
That's totally reasonable.
Just because that's the reason I play the deck. I'm not gonna unless something happens where the deck is completely trash, unplayable with Karn Liberateds, I'm not gonna do that.
You know, it's so funny because it's like I'm talking to a mirror image of myself right now, because that is what I told myself before trimming on Karn Liberateds. I said, why would I ever get rid of the reason why I want to play the deck? And here I am now.
Yeah, though I'm a lot softer on Great Creator now. After seeing this deck post Mycosynth Lattice Ban, I love the tech. And now it's actually I have to think about what's in my sideboard and what I can do to...
Or if my opponent just exiled my ring.
That was a lot of fun.
That's why cards like the Stone Brain is disgusting, because the Stone Brain exiles itself.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's a nuts card. I love it. I love One Ring. I love that it still feels like Tron, and yet you're doing some really cool stuff a bit earlier in the game than the older Trons do.
Yeah, like for example, with Urza Saga, even like I didn't win that game, but I had a presence of a creature on board. That one trades with a Ragavan. It trades with an Orcish Bowmaster if the Bowmaster doesn't trigger in time. It's just like it's versatile. And if you're playing, like you had turns where you said, I'll play Relic of Regenesis and Chromatic Star and I'll pass. Your construct is now a 3/3. So it's just like it's very versatile, and I've been liking this build a lot because it's been performing really well and it's very resilient.
Cool. Any other closing remarks there, Ryan?
No, other than this was an absolute pleasure. I know that you and I have been talking about this for a little while. I'm excited that we finally were able to sit down and do this. Thank you for inviting me to play. I love playing with Power. Y'all are incredible. So thank you very much for the opportunity to play these games with you. And I'm excited to see you again soon.
Thanks for watching. What decks would you like to see in our next installment of our Time Capsule series? We'd love to hear from you.